Good morning, and we are live for Mazes and Muses on our typical Saturday morning. Let me hit a couple more buttons, make sure everything is muted the way it's supposed to be muted. It looks like we're all good to go. Good morning, Steve Conley. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. I am excellent. I am groggy. I was up late making writing stats. You know, the fun part of making D&D content.
That was my plan for last night. I totally planned on doing that, but I was tired and I went to bed like at 8:30. So
good man. Good
but
man.
my dogs got me up at 4 this morning, so I may take a nap during this little chat. So Steve Conley, who the hell are you and why am I talking to you?
I have no idea about the latter. The former, I the hell am Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age, which you can read at middleagecomic.com. I also make TTRPG content, including the recently funded Metadomain Cleric, The Prayer's Handbook, and prior to that, Intoximancy and Death Dealing. And I guess we'll talk today about the next thing on the to-do list.
Yeah, we will. I've already got the screen set up to show that off.
Who the hell are you?
I am the hell.
Explain yourself, Dan Taylor.
You don't know how often I am told that. I am Dan Taylor. I am a creator of D&D and tabletop role-playing game content, as well as a dungeon master and producer of live actual play Dungeons and Dragons show called Catacombs and Comedians.
Everyone's favorite.
And Catacombs and Comedians presents Catacombs and Creators. I know that's a long title, but I can't get rid of Catacombs and Comedians because it's the whole branding thing. So.
It's Disney's, Pixar's,
Exactly. Dan Taylor presents Catacombs and Comedians, Catacombs and Creators, starring Dan Taylor as the Dungeon Master. But yeah, that's who the hell I am. And every Saturday morning, Steve and I like to get together, have a little cup of coffee, and try to pump each other up on our creative endeavors when it comes to D&D and role-playing games. Correct?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Basically, it's Steve tells me what I should be doing right, and I tell him secrets that he has no idea about that makes him a superstar. And I give him credit.
This is my favorite show, by the way. I'm just going to tell you right now. None of our past episodes, just this one.
All right, so let's get to the meat of today's conversation.
We got meat.
Well, no, not really. It's kind of like a ultimate burger. It's not, looks like meat, but it's not meat.
The Impossible Podcast.
Yeah. Impossiblepodcast.com. But so speaking of food.
What a segue. What a segue.
What a segue.
What a pro.
Let's discuss what is not impossible and that nobody should have a beef with.
Nice.
Nibblemancy.
That is the next one. We teased it last week a little bit that with Zine Quest Kickstarter's, which is Zine month is February. Kickstarter's version of that is Zine Quest, and that's kind of how we both. I think you've been creating TTRPG stuff for a while, but I think it was Zine Quest of 2022 where you and I both were like, okay, let's do this stuff for real. And let's jump in with both feet. And we both decided to take part in that. And that we did in 2023. And now 2024 is here. And in February, that will be Zine Quest. And so my project for Zine Quest, which is a big crowdfunding event where it's a lot of kind of low budget, basically smaller boutique projects. Low budget's almost like part of it's kind of baked into it a little bit because it's meant to be a tiny project. It's not supposed to have a staff of 100. It's not supposed to be a 80-page or 100-page book. It's just meant to be a small bite-sized thing, and for role-playing games. And so the one I'm going to be doing for this time around is going to be called Nibblemancy. It's a cooking-themed wizard subclass. And cooking and baking theme wizard subclass. It's much like Intoximancy, my first project, my first Zine Quest project. This comes from my webcomic, The Middle Age. There's a villain adversary in the Middle Age who has concocted unusual baked treats and things like that. Things which are, I think of it like the Snow White's apple, that sort of thing, where it's a tempting bit of magic. And there's been tons of things like that, tons of superpowered cooking folks, whether it's Sanji from One Piece or the God of Cookery, and countless others. The idea would be that this is a magical subclass where instead of booze or weed or pipeweed from Intoximancy, you've got baked goods and other fun stuff. And it leans into part of my history. I bake a lot. The pandemic not only brought me back to Dungeons and Dragons, it also had me dive deep into baking. And I was a short order cook for the longest time. My dad had a coffee shop and ran a restaurant. And so it's kind of like I'm familiar with the lingo. I'm familiar with I'm just familiar with it as a environment. And so I think it's going to be really easy to lean into to make food-based magic. I think it'll be fun. So in between all the prep work for the Metadomain book, I put together this placeholder page, and it got approved by Kickstarter on Thursday. I had the domain for a while. It had been cooking for a while, as it were. And so we just launched it. So I think a handful of people have queued up. I haven't told many people. I posted over my Discord late last night, I think. And so this is the first time anybody's seeing it.
Well, that was, because I follow your Discord intensely and wait on every post. And of course, I saw that last night and jumped on it and gave you a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So this will be February. This is sooner than the other books you've done, right? There's been more space, but time-wise between the other ones.
Oh yes, absolutely. But part of one of the reasons, certainly between the projects. I mean, I don't even have the funding from the previous Metadomain. Kickstarter is still collecting pledges from my backers. So, but this month, the Prayer's Handbook, the Metadomain Cleric book, will be shipped electronically to everybody. And I'm hoping that by the middle of February, many of the book orders will go out. I don't expect the Nibbleman. So backing up a little bit, Zine Quest is the month of February. I don't expect to launch on February 1st. I want to have most, if not all, of Metadomain out the door before we launch Nibblemancy. This placeholder page is just to get people queued up to hitting that notify me on launch button. Because the sooner you have that up, the more time people have to get in line. And I want, all the updates I'll be giving Metadomain folks, I want to be able to include a note to this, hey, go queue up for the next one. But I don't want them to overlap. I never want one project to be bleeding into the next, or there are some Kickstarter campaigns which seem to be, I think, kind of unscrupulously using the funds from the next campaign to kind of pay. I think they get the big chunk of money and I think they spend it. And then they get the next campaign to spend money I'd much rather go the other way around. I want my previous campaign to pay for the next one, and keep building forward like that. So each project just gets bigger and better. I paid for the casting of the miniatures for Metadomain back in December. I mean, the campaign was going to happen at that point. We'd raised enough money that we weren't going to be losing those pledges. There weren't going to be so many people unbacking it to cancel the project. So I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and pay for quite a bit of the production before we even got there. So the t-shirts, I can't do the t-shirt production. I would love to pay for that today and get those in the works, but for Metadomain, but I don't know what the final order numbers are, things like that. Right. So some things like that where I have to, but creating the molds for the minis, I knew that we had to do that. So anything I knew we had to build, I paid for already. So yeah, this whole year is going to be a lot of this. It's going to be a lot of building one campaign, and while I'm fulfilling that campaign, creating a little bit of time to create the placeholder for the next one, and hopefully turning this into a viable ongoing business.
Theoretically, guesstimate how many of your subclass things is it possible you might do for 2024?
3?
All right.
Yeah, I feel like I have other projects I have to squeeze in there. There's going to be a collection of my sci-fi webcomic series. It's like the 25th anniversary of that, and I feel like I want to put together a book of that. And also, I'm more capable as a 3D sculptor now. You know, I spent the last few years teaching myself how to do that. So I feel like those projects I can bolster with. I think people who read Astounding Space Thrills might like a statue of Argus C. Smith, who's the hero from that. I feel like people who liked Astounding Space Thrills might like a sort of a prop replica of his ray gun.
That's what I was going to suggest. Yeah.
Things like that are something that could just sit on the shelf and look awesome. The thing about 3D printing is, by and large, they're not particularly durable for handling. Like I 3D printed a Kenner size action figure. So I could make an Argus C. Smith Kenner size action figure on a backing board, on all that stuff, but you wouldn't want to play with it. It'll break. But if it's going to stay in a container, if it's going to stay in the box as behind you, as behind me for most things, it's a thing where it could be cool. So
you got to keep it mint on card anyway, right?
Allegedly. But I do think a statue of Argus C. Smith or his ray gun, which a guy who does theater props made one back in the day. But now that I'm good at 3D sculpting and 3D, all the kind of mechanical bits, I feel like I could do it. So there's that project. And there's also going to be the third collection of the Middle Age. So there's at least 5 Kickstarters in the works for this year. Each one will be building on the next one. I don't know if they'll all be through Kickstarter. Maybe one will be through BackerKit. They keep contacting me about doing stuff. So I don't know, but certainly the 5e projects are a lot of fun, and clearly they're building on each other. Turns out when Metadomain had 477 backers, which was more backers than I've ever had. I had a worry because Intoximancy had 450. Death Dealing, which I thought was going to be a no-brainer because everyone loves rogues, and it's got, who doesn't want to be Gambit or Bullseye throwing deadly cards at people? I thought, okay, this is going to be no Death Dealer exists in the comic The Middle Age, so I'm not leveraging my existing property to bolster it in any way. But it also happened on the heels of the OGL scandal, where people are like, I don't like D&D anymore. I feel like maybe that was something that hurt it. I don't know. I honestly don't know why it didn't do as well as Intoximancy did. But Metadomain, which is the weirdest of the 3. Did well. So I don't know. Either I'm building momentum or I have no idea what's happening.
It's a roller coaster.
Either one's easily probable. That I don't know that a William Goldman line. William Goldman? William Goldman, the Princess Bride. Nobody knows anything. His quote for Hollywood. Nobody knows anything.
No, but that's cool. I mean, I love the way you focused and you get it done. I just come up with a billion ideas and just keep switching the burners around. And so,
well, it's you. I think you have a lot of ideas, and I think you did manage to get Dirk of Many Stings, like as a whirlwind. I think that's a tricky bit. I feel for me, it was the reason why I didn't want to announce it last week is I feel like announcing something, you get a lot of the kudos almost as if you had done the thing, but you haven't done it. All you've done is announce it.
Right. So
you can spend all day long telling people, hey, I'm doing this thing. And they go, good for you. And you get a lot of those accolades. You get a wash and that kind of like approval, which artists and creators are so starved for. We get that approval and we're like, okay, that feels good. Oh, now I have to build the thing? So I feel like the quieter I am about the projects I'm working on, it's not because I'm like, oh, don't learn my secret recipe because I don't have one. It's more like if I tell people, I'll lose that. It'll starve me of the approval that I'll get when I finally release the damn thing, and it'll sap my desire to tell it. So I learned that a long time ago when I was doing my comic books. Was that if I told people the story, if I told my friends the story, I wouldn't want to tell it anymore. I've told all the people I care about the story, so why spend the countless hours drawing the damn thing? Anyway, I try to keep it bottled up. So I'm like, I gotta get this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, Dirk of Many Stinks surprised me too. I mean, it's not much. It's just one magic item, but I managed to pull 16 pages out of one magic item. But yeah, it's up. It's officially a drive-through RPG.
Damn.
I'm not gonna make a fortune off of this, but apparently, yeah, since I'm one of the people that bought my own copy, since it says you have purchased this title. No, but yeah, it's up there. And originally I was going to do it for have something at GaryCon just for the zine thing, but I ended up getting it done and getting it out of the way over the New Year's break. And so it's out there, and go check it out, people. It's my first of many, hopefully.
What's the elevator pitch?
It's like the deck of many things, but it'll prick you. How's that work?
That works.
It's made to break your game, more or less. Because it's not play tested, so use it your own, caution when using it. But yeah, it's just a fun little thing. I just thought, Dirk of Many thing. I want to. Let's just make fun of the Dirk of Many thing, our deck of many things. That just to finally officially the physical version just came out. So maybe I was trying to capture some of that, magic. But yeah, so that's out there. It's good to have a zine.
Is that a consideration? Sometimes you're like, okay, this thing's hot, or they're going to do a big press. They're going to do a whole thing on dragons. I should do a dragon thing. So while everyone's talking about dragons, I should have my dragon, because you have so many different.
That's always on my mind, and that's why I probably have a lot of different projects that end up getting put on the back burner, because I'm like, like you, let's just say, troglodytes are the new thing,
right?
That's going to be the new thing coming out. So I'm like, well, I've got a troglodyte. I got to come up with a troglodyte idea.
So sometimes it's really responding like, this is a hot thing. I should do something for it.
Yes. So I'll come up with a troglodyte idea, but by the time I'm ready to get my troglodyte idea really rolling and going and out, the troglodyte craze is gone.
Yeah, that's the big worry. I used to listen to a ton of podcasts from the authoring world, where people were creating PDFs, basically using Kindle they're kind of almost like pulp writers. They're producing a novel a month kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they would get like, oh, this is hot. This is shiny vampires is hot. Werewolf romances are hot. And they would all of them, like a flock of birds, all turn direction, and they'd all flood this area. And by the time, I don't know, maybe the first 3 or 4 birds would actually get what they were going after. Everyone else, by the time they got there, it was burnt out. Because, so I don't know. I have tried to avoid those trends, because I think if I do something cool, no, I'm never going to do anything cool. I think that's part of it. But I don't know. Following those trends or chasing those trends is never. I'm never going to be fast enough for that. I don't think.
Because it goes back to my Hero Happy Hour days in that comic book. There's like in the On the Rocks, the last graphic novel we did. It wasn't a collection trade. It was an original, trade paperback color. The first time we really had it in color in print. And there was a whole thing about Netflix changing their model as far as how they got movies out. And this is before Netflix was Netflix. I think it was kind of maybe the end of the DVD mail out era or something like that. Right. So I kind of did a joke on that and put that in the book. And now that's, that joke's irrelevant in that book.
Yeah.
It's like when we had the Hero Happy Hour online comic strip, Charlie Sheen was going all crazy. So I created a Charlie Sheen character in there to go all crazy and spewing. So it works better in that aspect online at the time.
Right. Absolutely.
So I don't think jumping on crazes, so to speak, such a bad idea, but you got to be ready to get it, do it, get it out quick.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I did with the Dirk of Many Stings, because I mean, Hasbro, our Wizards, isn't talking about the Deck of Many Things being out anymore. They're moving on to their next thing.
Right.
But I'm working on my troglodyte idea and see how that goes.
Yeah, there's a great cartoonist named Walt Kelly who did a comic called Pogo. Strip artist. Great comic strip, absolutely gorgeous, indecipherable, because every reference is related to like the John Birch Society, or the latest thing Spiro Agnew did, or or like Lyndon Johnson jokes. It's like you don't get it. You need to have someone explaining it to you. So I feel like that's a huge risk in creating something that's topical, trying to find a way. I always try to thread that needle the way Bugs Bunny kind of did, where Humphrey Bogart could make a walk-on and no kid knows who Humphrey Bogart is, but all they know is that some weird dude just came on and said something silly, and Bugs Bunny said something silly in return, and you don't have to know who it is. I feel like that's the trying to make sure that everything, whatever jokes you make and whatever stuff you do, has works if you don't get the reference.
Well, Sparrow Agnew is a good name for my troglodyte character.
Perfect. Jump on that bandwagon. Something for all you Agnew heads out there.
No, but so I just because I like jumping on, then there's always spews an idea or something. I mean, so that's that. So I've got all my confirmation for the GaryCon stuff. The show's a go. I've got the date and the time and the room number, and same for I'm going to DM 2 D&D games at that show as well, based on the Flag and the Dragons Fungin.
Excellent.
That you're familiar with.
Excellent.
So I got to work on, because I want to have that as an actual adventure module.
Awesome.
Ready by the time GaryCon. So that has moved up on the burner.
You could say, when you make your module, like when you make it available as a download or whatever, play tested by, and like and a list of all of you who played it.
Play tested by Matt Forbeck, Ed Greenwood.
Yeah, what do we got? Tommy Gofton.
Yeah, and some guy named Steve Conley.
Who?
And Levi Combs. No, I got to remember to put that on there.
Play tested by. Yeah.
It was supervised by Chris Perkins,
as seen at GaryCon and GameholeCon.
So I'm excited about that. That's actually happening now and getting done. So it's good to have those events scheduled in GaryCon's system. So I will be posting more about that as we lead on when it's time to buy event tickets, because I got 5 players each for the 2 games. And then I think we got up to 50 can come in and sit and watch the show. Awesome. That's going to feature Ed Greenwood and Matt Forbeck and Levi Combs and Tommy Gofton, so as well as myself.
Fantastic.
So so the fact that I got to get ready for GaryCon, I don't know how much or how hard I'm going to lean into Zine Quest being February, the month beforehand.
And because you famously detest running crowdfunding campaigns.
Yes.
I was talking with someone the other day. They were like, just last night, a creator we know, we were talking over Zoom last night. I was like, he's cooking up his crowdfunding campaign. And he's like, you can just tell it's like that kind of like, doesn't want to do the math, doesn't want to think about the tiers and all the work that's involved. And there's so much more work for doing a Kickstarter now. They've added, people are like, oh, it's so graphic light. We add some graphics. Now you have to create you have to create so many more graphics now. It's so much more work.
And Kickstarter has become the avenue for role-playing games at this point. There's always drive-through, but just the exposure and the audience.
Well, Backer Kit, holy cow, with Matt Colville and $4.6 million.
Yeah, well, that's what I plan on doing 420 on this backer kit, which I want to have to be able to strongly promote by the time GaryCon happens.
I wonder how much, like, BackerKit has their own internal promotion tools, but I don't know how much they cross pollinate. I don't know, of the 30,000 backers who backed MCDM, how many will BackerKit let them know about 420? Will they? Is there a cross-pollination system like that? Like, hey, you back this thing. Here are 4 other games you might be interested in. I'm sure it's all opt-in because BackerKit so far has been a very responsible company. But I presume somewhere along the way there's an opt-in for their gaming newsletter.
I mean, I do get emails that have that, so I assume it does exist. I mean, have you backed a BackerKit product before?
Yeah.
Or just that was straight on BackerKit, or is that just what they use to facilitate their deliveries? Was it a Kickstarter thing that used BackerKit to facilitate, or did you actually get something using the back?
I'm positive I backed a BackerKit campaign. So I remember it was a pain in the ass at the time too, because having someone who used BackerKit as a creator, to then the system was uncomfortable because it already knew me as a creator. To treat me like a customer, the system had a disconnect there. So they've since fixed that. But I have absolutely backed things on BackerKit, and I do get their updates. I just don't know how those are. I don't know if those are paid for. Yeah. I don't know how those things work. But
I will find out.
But if 30,000 people who forked over that much money for MCDM are available to speak to, I think a project will do very well.
Yeah, if I could get 15,000, half of that, to kick in $4.20 for the PDF.
Just half, just 15,000 people.
Yeah, that's all. I've never had come close to any of those numbers on any of my previous crowdfunding projects, but that would be amazing.
Metadomain didn't make as much money as some of my previous campaigns. It didn't have the death dealing one did much better, I think, because it had a deck of cards, which was it was a pricey item, but it had more backers, and that's what I care about. If I can get to like 1,000 backers, I feel like my projects will just be more resilient. I just have to make sure, and then it's all about just making sure you deliver something that people love, like, or at least don't hate. And then hopefully they come back for the next thing.
But now you've got those 3 good solid books. So,
well, 2.5. Wow. So fingers crossed. So, and that's as long as I signed a deal with World of Game Design. So they're going to be when they set up at these various events, like they've got Winter Fantasy coming up, and they go to PAX and Gen Con and Origins, all that stuff. Their booth is going to have Intoximancy and Death Dealing at it. So hopefully more people become aware of it, and I don't have to schlep my stuff everywhere. It's a distribution deal. It's not like I'm not making cover price, but everyone at Gamehole Con convinced me to up my cover price, so it's not going to sting as badly as it would have had my low self-esteem kept the price low.
No, and trust me, having done Gen Con once, shit sells quick.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was there for the full, Thursday through Sunday, and I went back on, because you get there Thursday, you look around the whole dealer room, you go, okay, I got to come back for that. I'll come back for that. I'll come back for that. By the time I was coming back late Friday afternoon or Saturday, gone.
Wow.
Stuff was gone. So I'm going to have to, if I'm going to buy anything, it's buy it then, buy it now,
Maybe 2025 I set up a booth.
You should definitely figure out a way to do it. So
yeah, but if this year, if Dungeons and Dragons survives 2024, I'll definitely do it in 2025.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
The big question mark hanging over this year is whether 5.5, let's call it that, if that's going to have an OGL. They said it would. Kyle Brink, who I believe, I'm Team Brink. He said it's going to have an OGL. He doesn't say when it's going to have an OGL. I don't know if that's 2028, but or do you think we can muddle through with 5e stuff forever?
I think we could muddle with 5e for a while anyway. I'm not too worried about it. But then again, I'm not looking to create anything grand scale. knowing that there's some questions in mind, it'll be more, oh, here's a tavern setting. Here's a magical
Is
dagger.
Warren is your big project Warrenhold? Is that safe to call it the big project, or is 420 the big project? Which of all the big projects in front of you, which one's the biggest or the closest to you so perspective makes it the biggest?
420 is more of a complete project. Warrenhold is more of a living, ongoing thing.
System neutral?
No, I'm gonna lean towards the 5e for Warrenhold. But it's going to be enough fluff where it can be system neutral.
Right.
But if you want specifics, you can, oh, well, I wonder what that innkeeper's stats are. Well, they're in 5e. I'm not going to do,
right.
But you could just read, well, when you read the fluff about the innkeeper, you go, okay, I'll just put him in Pathfinder by doing this, and
Right.
So it's going to be usable in any system, but it's going to be, when I'm, if I get crunchy or want to do rule specific, or here's the Warrenhold werewolf,
right.
It's going to be 5e stuff. Oop, gave it away. No. I have no idea if they're werewolves yet, but now that I said that, there has to be.
It's canon.
Yeah. So, but 420 is a bigger project because I want that to be complete. Warrenhold, I could always go, well, it's still growing. It's still, going on. Yeah. Here's a map of this quarter from Warrenhold that's been released and out, but it's not the whole thing. So it'll always be going, But 420, I want those 420-page zines as a set. And if you're playing the 420 drinking game, I don't know how many times we've said 420, but you probably should call an ambulance at this point.
And the idea is that the 420 is a standalone system. You get that book, you get those 4 books, you can play the game
forever. Yeah,
that's nice.
I don't know if I'm releasing an SRD or OGL for 420.
That's great.
But yeah, you should be able to play the game, and then and that'll
be
give
the Cannabis Commons.
And then I could just do supplements for that later down the road if I want. Like if I want to do the big heroin, the fentanyl monster or whatever.
Right.
I shouldn't be making light of that.
No,
that's wrong.
Too soon, Dan.
Yeah. But that's the big project is always Catacombs and Comedians.
Sure. I'm
in the early stages now of figuring out how I can do a Catacombs and Comedians show at Gen Con.
Not just in the comedy club.
Not at the comedy club, because I am doing it at the Helium Comedy Club the night before, July 31st. Get your tickets in April when they go on sale at Helium Indianapolis website. And you'll hear plenty about it when that time is closer, but tickets aren't available at this point. But having done a show at Gamehole Con and getting it ready for Gary Con, I'm like, oh, I could do it for Gen Con, but I'm trying to figure out, do I want to do a comedian's show or do I want to do a creator show?
Right.
And there's another act called Monster, who I'm using some of their comedians for my Helium show. And they're going to have a booth set up, and they've been kind enough to say I can put some promotional material out there as well. But they want to do their own show as well at Gen Con. So rather than competing, we're talking to each other.
Sure.
We're not going to, okay, we both want to schedule an actual play D&D comic show Friday night at 8:00 at Gen Con. So we're working together, because maybe some of their comedians will be in my show. Because I want Monster to thrive as well, but I want Catacombs and Comedians to thrive more because I'm selfish.
Sure.
And it's my baby.
Right.
But I could definitely do a creator show at Gen Con without stepping on their toes. So I'm juggling that to see how I can get that done. Maybe, I'm starting to put feelers out for some creators if they're going to be at Gen Con, if they'd be interested in being in the show. Matt Forbeck's already said yes.
That's awesome. He's your Paul Lind.
I was going to go Robert De Niro. I'm Martin Scorsese. He's Robert De Niro, but
We're making young references for the young people.
So I mean, that would be a great exposure for Catacombs Comedians.
That's awesome.
So hopefully, I'm working on that. So that, unfortunately, all the administrative stuff for Catacombs Comedians takes up much of my time.
Right.
That I can't work on at Warren Hole as much as I want, or 420 as much as I want, or stuff. I'm not. That's why I'm not positive there'll be a Zine Quest, or how big my Zine Quest project, because Catacombs Comedians is there.
Right.
And in fact, I just ordered $220 worth of custom Catacombs and Comedian hats this morning.
How many?
$220 worth.
Wow.
Just a couple baseball caps, and because Chris Perkins is going to want that cap.
Oh yeah,
that logo of the Laughing D20.
Sure. Well, that's what's you find the crowdfunding to be a pain in the butt. I don't know how you do the Catacombs and Comedians logistics. Honestly, I was at the Catacombs, and I thankfully was able to take part in the Catacombs and Creators at Gamehole Con. But to see Dan wheel in this trunk of stuff, not only to get the whole thing organized, not only to get to herd all these cats onto a Friday night, kind of like amazing, like a primetime slot on a Friday night. Chris Perkins in the front row. He wheels in this trunk like Dan is who Gallagher and Carrot Top wanted to be when they were growing up, in terms of the sheer amount of props he had for this thing. He sets up the whole table. It's amazing. There's potion bottles, there's dice, and the dude is amazing. Amazing. So I really was impressed by the production, the organization. I don't know how you do it. And we talk about the crowdfunding side, which is kind of easier to measure because there's numbers, but damn, I don't know how you do it. So
and I thank you for saying that. I mean, it is a chore, but it's a labor of love for most of it. But whenever even after I do something and put on a show, and you said I've got all these fun things, and there's always still somebody that comes up and goes, well, why don't you do it? You should add this.
Sure.
You could do this. And
Are there sometimes you go like, oh, that's correct, or sometimes it's just like you have to say, I've thought through that. It's not, I can't wheel a actual goldfish in here.
Yeah, basically, I'm like, I'm a one-man show for the, I can't rely, and I would not burden my talent, the comedians or the creators, with work to put the show together, other than having them be funny, entertaining, asses in the seat.
Right.
And they got to come up with their character. And sometimes if they don't even come up with their character, if I have a guest comic at a show, I'll say, this is the character you're playing. Is there
a path forward to, like, Mr. Taylor, where do you see Catacombs Comedians in 5 years? What is there a thought where at some point where they're like, okay, we're going to give you a stipend, a budget to bring people in, to bring, if a convention wanted to have Catacombs Comedians, if they give you a prime space, pick up your hotel and maybe travel, that's sufficient for you because you want to grow the brand and sell and have your merch table and have your YouTube channel. I mean, what's the revenue path for you? Is that something that matters at this point? Is it still like, if we could build the brand, then the path will present itself?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing. And, it's hard because right now I'm even thinking about, I would love to get on an established, well-viewed actual play stream as myself as a player. So, at the end of every episode they go, and Dan Taylor, who's playing Grugar the Barbarian, what do you have? I go, well, there's my Catacombs Comedian live shows, and you go to catacombscomedians.com, to find out more. And I would love that to happen. But at this point, I have not been able to get on any shows as a player, as much as I beg, plead, and, throw myself out there.
I've seen a couple of social media posts, but are there particular programs that you feel like you'd be a good fit for, or do you feel like
no?
Okay.
I mean, I would not be a good fit for any no.
I'd be terrible. Oh God.
Yeah. I would just, I just wanted more. I want to get myself if I am the brand Catacombs Comedians, I want to get myself out there more often and in front of more eyes, other than just say, hey, come to Catacombs and Comedians, because most of the people don't know what that is still.
Right.
But if I'm playing in, awesome Steve Dungeon Masters streaming show that's on once a week that has, good viewership, then people start to see me as, well, this guy knows his D&D and, oh, he's got his own program. And then that would help, I think, build my audience. And I've seen other streamers and creators go that route with great success. I just don't know how to do it at this point. I haven't been able. So that, I mean,
you've seen streamers who
started nowhere.
Gotcha. Had their side project, joined the table at somebody else's table, and thanks to the success of that, grew their own.
Yes.
Do they stay in the shadow of the project that they were part of, or have they eclipsed the project they were part of? I'm not sure what example.
Yes, both. Yes. And like I've tried, I tried to get a Catacombs Comedian stream going, but you've seen how difficult it is getting just you guys on stage for one show.
Right.
But to get all these people together, so I'm like, so now at this point, I'm thinking about having, going ahead and just DMing a streaming show myself as Dungeon Master, but not be Catacombs and Comedians. Get out there and find 4 or 5 players who are good at actual play streams, who want to do it, and try to, just do it that way.
I still think Catacombs and Creators would be great online. I think you got a ton of people, because not only do folks like DC Bradshaw and Owen Casey Stevens and your friend from the Banff podcast, we've got all these people, all these folks, you've got Connolly, who's just, I'll be part of it. Whatever you say, boss. It is you've got these people who have small followings in and of themselves. They know how to play the game. You're not explaining the rules to them. They've got their own little followings. It's a lot of pasty white guys. That's kind of
that's one of the reasons why I didn't, honestly, I should have thought of Catacombs and Creators. I didn't. Because that's always just been at a convention show idea for me, I think.
Oh, I think I've bugged you about this in the past. You even, after we talked about it, you even ran it up the flagpole. You actually said, hey, anybody creators like that? I think, I swear I saw some people go, oh, I count me in. I feel like, we have stable internet connections. We're not going to show up incapacitated, maybe mildly soused, but we're not going to be so, it's not going to be some security cam,
iPhone in your car.
Right. I did have to play a game of D&D. I was playing a game of Blade Runner. The Wi-Fi here went out, so I was sitting outside of Panera at 9 p.m. at night playing from my car. That was suboptimal. But I feel like we could, if you did a Catacombs and Creators, I absolutely think that you could, I think that almost always and a lot of those people want to promote their projects too, so they have a reason to come on. Catacombs and Comedians, they're getting the comedians to come on. They're gonna say, hey, this Thursday I'll be at the Chuckle Hut, and it's not going to have the same lasting value as someone who joins a podcast where hopefully if people rewatch it forever, they'll hear the word Intoximancy 35 times and maybe they'll buy it in 2027. I think there's some real chance there for.
See, this is why we have our Saturday morning coffee chats.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it would be amazing, and I think you could get people, and I think like you've talked about, shorter episodes with like shorter arcs, a Flag and the Dragon, that gets broken into 4 episodes, or and then people pimping their projects. You're good at the production. You got StreamYard down. We have good microphones and good cameras. And if nobody watches it, it will be a good time. It's not. That's why I love this. Someone said, like, if nobody watches, I'm having a good time. This is fun, and I think that's the key to every project I try to work on. It's got to be fun no matter what, because odds are no one's going to see it. So at least it should be fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. I see that. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna lean into that a little bit more. I'll kick the tires on that. I think.
kick tires, kick some tires, smoke on it, Dan.
Oh, I will. Oh, I will. There's a dog walk coming. I do a lot of thinking when I walk the dog.
That's it.
um. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Um. I mean, that post that you may have seen where I'm putting the feelers out, that I think that was kind of the line for Gen Con. Gary Con, Gen Con, Gamehole Con, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think we had a talk here on the stream. I said we have to talk afterwards, and afterwards, I'm like, you were probably if you don't remember, it's probably because you probably had like your Titans jersey on. You probably had a Titans. You had your seat cover, and you had like the cooler next to you. You're out the door.
I was out the door, yeah. But now the football season's over, and we don't even have a head coach at this point because we fired our head coach, Mike Variable. And
don't tell me. I mean, tell me about it. I mean, don't. I mean, no. Tell me all about it. But I think that's all part of your brand. And I think you're a genius, and yeah, make it happen.
Yeah, we could do Catacombs and Creators because apparently I've got one player ready to go.
Yeah, people, and you know people who want to pimp their projects. Everyone's running a Kickstarter. Hey, do you want to sit in on this week's episode? Yes, I would love to.
What I'd like to do is get 3 or 4 consistent players,
Sure.
So I could do a campaign. So there can be some invest, because I think there needs to be some sort of investment for the viewers to come in and say, oh, I want to see the character arc that Steve Conley's, Death Dealer goes through.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah, rather than just having, getting 4 comedians for one shots like this.
And it's a lot less work if you have a commitment from some folks, because then it's like you're not chasing people down every week. Who do I have in 2 days to it's not none of that.
Because trust me, it's a pain in the ass enough to do that with comedians. Even when they say, oh yeah, I'm there, and then you get a call the morning before.
And I want to say, I don't mean to disparage folks in our particular demographic, but those comedians are the young people. They have lives. We are unburdened with such such things. We have things to do.
No, that makes total sense. I should, if I'm going to do a regular actual play show, I should make it Catacombs and Creators rather than starting a whole new thing. Because I've spent the last 2 days trying to, what would I call it if it was a new one? But now I've got Catacombs and Creators, so that's easy.
You've got a good name. It's got a pedigree. You've already got people who've already taken part. Jeremy Crawford was in the Jeremy Crawford was in the front row.
No.
Chris Perkins. Holy crap. Like I said, I'm halfway through this cup. I'll get it right by the end of the show.
Yeah, maybe I talk Chris into sitting in on one.
Right. Or, he might pop in just to chat.
Yeah.
He said at that event, like he gets the stage fright. He doesn't like to be the all that stuff. So, even if he just gets in to pop in and chat, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, we'll try. I'll try. I'll kick that around.
Kick it around.
Yeah.
Take a dog for a walk.
No, I mean, that's exactly. We got a 3-day weekend. I've already, I told my family, I go, look, I got a lot of D&D work to work on this weekend. So
that's a nice thing to say.
And if we get the snow we're expecting, that may turn into a 4 or 5 day weekend. So
the another project I've started recently was that we talked about before. But what my Zine Quest project was going to be in February was a thing called Plots Devices, which was going to be when I DM'd a group, my usual group. Odious Plots was was kind of the guy who gave the characters their quest. He was a merchant. He made and sold magical items, and so
I have Ari Gant.
Yeah. He was sort of the dungeon master from the cartoon series, kind of instigator, and his daughter gets kidnapped and sends the characters on an adventure. And so magical items, making magical items. I thought, but the problem was that I thought there's nothing special about just a book of magical items. I think you kind of felt this with a little bit with your Catacombs and Comedians, Monstrous Menagerie.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
or no, Creature Cavalcade. I think is what I called it.
Creature Cavalcade. Well,
all I know was alliteration.
The idea is that there's so many monster books out there and so many magic item books that I felt like I really want to do these things. I really want to create these things, but I don't know if I want to have a Kickstarter crowdfunding effort specifically dedicated to it. So I just started putting them over on my Patreon.
And I think that's a great idea. I'm doing the same thing. I mean, right now, if you go to my Patreon, you could get the Dirk of Many Stings free and not buy it at Drive.
That's awesome. How do you deliver those?
Just download the PDF.
So you upload the PDF as an attachment to a Patreon post?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Then only, and you can do it so only, it's easy to do. I mean, they have that option there. But I could also I'm thinking about changing that just because I don't want to piss off Drive-Thru RPG to put a link that sends you to a free version on the Drive-Thru RPG site.
Oh, that's a good idea to get the number, hopefully get numbers up and things like that.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things I'm going to do this weekend because this is a lot of D&D administrative work going down this weekend. I think
I need to, what I've been doing is my first impulse was to paywall all the stuff. First of all, I'm loving the conversation. There's way more conversation about the magic items over on my Patreon than there is about like the webcomic. The webcomic is just kind of, I think the webcomic feels like unidirectional storytelling. You're just sitting back and watching a thing. You're not going to kibitz. You might go cool or something like that. But when you magic items, people are just jumping in with much more fun chatter. But I do feel like I need to make the things free to everybody and hopefully encourage them to sign up. I think I have to treat it more like I was treating it like it was a product. I was treating it like it was this thing I'm paywalling. And I think I need to treat it more like a webcomic where it has to be free. And it'll be an ad for Intoximancy, an ad for all the other things I'm doing. And it can't be, and if I collect it later as part of a Kickstarter, I don't think it'll ever be a standalone, but I do think as a separate zine, like one tier up, you get this other zine with it. I think that's the way to go. But
yeah, because the way I was thinking of doing Patreon, because I'm putting together a thing because I found, like I told you, I searched sites where you buy art assets. And I found some swords I liked, about 12 of them. I like the style, they're hand-drawn kind of style. And it's kind of, I'm modifying slightly. Just, not a big deal. Just, they're kind of squatty. So I'm just going to elongate them a little bit more and make them more sword-like, etc. But I'm thinking, like, maybe once a week, here's the new sword, magic sword.
Right.
And if you're a paid patron, which is $3 a month, you can download the one-page PDF of that sword, and it just won't be a little paragraph of like in the DM's guide. It'll have like the history of it and, story plots and, stuff like that. So I'm thinking of having that available. And then let's say when I get 12 of them together, then I can offer, fancy it up and put them in a combined product and make that product available on Drive-Thru.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to buy it if you've downloaded all the individual pages, but then again, you might want to download it because it's, here it is in one.
Right.
Maybe throw in an extra, maybe there's the 13th sword that's not available.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think there's ways to integrate and, do both, offer free stuff and then, still have it available at a price for your patrons.
Right. And that's just it too, because I feel like what we were talking about before about as long as it's fun to do, even if it doesn't make money, then it's okay. Because if creating these magic items is going to be fun. And if I make them free, great. More people see it. And more people will discover my work. And I know your goal is to be D&D famous. I prefer to still be D&D hiding somewhere in a corner, not noticed. But hopefully people would find the work that way.
But I've never said D&D rich.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. I just, Dan Taylor. Yeah. I've seen his show. He puts on a good game.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That's all I want.
Nightbot. I didn't know you had a Nightbot for Nibblemancy.
I did as of this morning.
Dude, look at you. That's absolutely thoughtful. Thank you.
I told you the dogs woke me up at 4:00 this morning. So
yeah, I did get the link to this StreamYard very early. We didn't get to talk about this, the AI, our little chat over on Twitter. But we were talking about credit and how Wizards of the Coast did that dumb AI thing, or they blame it on a third-party vendor. But just the idea of giving credit. And I think giving credit all the time is probably a good idea. I think it's a safe thing going forward and a nice thing to do.
I agree. And it's not that I don't, it's just when a lot of times, like if they don't specify it in the license,
right?
I'm putting the book together and it's this easy thing to forget.
Yeah.
Because it's a widget that I bought.
Right. I mean, but it's also like the cover art or the Dirk is a widget, but it's also a thing where I feel like it was really interesting. Working late last night, I had one of Thomavor, Dave Thomavor's. He's got a YouTube channel, and he was going over the 54 terrible things that TSR had done back in its day, based on the on a book, and one of the ones that they kept doing with the Lorraine Williams era of TSR was that she denied creators credits on the sides of the D&D novels. Didn't want their names on the sides of the books. Like basically a lot of it was no royalties and no credits. And I feel like every time we get to villains in one of these stories, it's about their denying credit. And I feel like, so to make sure we've talked about people who we've, worked in the past in the comic book world who maybe were not as generous with credit as they could have been or should have been. I feel like every opportunity we have to extend credit and it doesn't always fit. They don't always ask for it, and we may not be able to track it down. Like you have a perfectly good case where the person's credit is some sort of string of numbers because that's how the licensor has it. Like I don't think you need to include that.
Yeah, because let's say the cover for the Dirk of Many Stings, I found a real simple dagger image. And then I found a bunch of icons on Flat Icon, which is a totally different. I mean, the same company owns Free Pick and Flat Icons. And then I combined them and I manipulated the image and all that sort of stuff. So
I think that's a case where you just say, images, I think I did that with one of mine. Was like, I thought I gave credit for Adobe stock.
I know you mentioned it. I don't know if you put it in a book. I've seen you mention it in a post. Or maybe in your Discord.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a thing where I'm absolutely going to be doing it moving forward. Like, just so it's a thing where, because I think part of it too is, I gave credit to another a contributor. But I think for going forward, I'm going to be like saying, this is a photograph by this person, that sort of thing. It's small print. No one's ever going to read it, but I feel like the shout out is key to us being the opposite of jerks.
No, and I understand where you're coming from completely. As an artist, you are, you're invested in the, artist rights or, sort of thing. And I'm going to rely on you to keep me honest and maybe you should do that, Dan. Okay, you're right. I should do it, but
and that's all I'll ever say is maybe you should. But
like a lot of if I use a Dyson map, I say this is a Dyson map.
Sure. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. It's a thing where, and I need to do that because I have licensed photographs from as reference from Adobe stock. Like there's a photograph in the Intoximancy where there's a wizard who is holding up their flagon. That's absolutely based the initial body shape of that character is they don't have a collar, they don't have a flagon, they don't have their hand out raised like that. But there's pieces of it that is absolutely part of another photograph. And if you saw the photograph next to it, you'd be like, okay, that's basically the same thing. And I feel like there's part of it is also like, owning it in a way as another creator who someone says, hey, that photograph is very similar to another one. We've seen like comics where there were some cartoonists who they would trace a photograph, and it would be like the cover. It would be like a swimsuit model from a popular swimsuit Sports Illustrated issue, and tracers and tracing and things like that. I feel like if the person just simply said after this cover, it would be litigious, but open them up to legal problems. But if they had done it correctly, I think they would have. I don't know. I think the more honest we are and the more of a pedigree we indicate for our artwork, the less likely we're going to be accused of having AI, since everything is like, it's almost a joke now. Like if I see, Mike Mignola post something, I'm sure someone underneath is that AI? It's
sad.
Huh?
It's sad.
It is.
Because I know like some of my, sites that I get images from, there's an option that says no AI, and I hit that right away.
Right. Yeah.
But then again, how am I sure that that's not,
Yeah. It's awful.
So I even steer clear of artwork that looks remotely like AI. And even after I counted fingers, I'm like, no.
And BackerKit won't allow it.
Yeah. I'm like, this is a great image. I'd love to use it. And they've only got five fingers per hand.
Right.
So it might not be AI, but I'm not 100%. It's too much smoky stuff going around where I'm like, it might be.
There's all my comics, the Middle Age, the characters have 3 fingers and a thumb. I want it to be cartoony. And so if you look at Intoximancy, the guy only has 3 fingers and a thumb. So is it AI? It's missing a finger. It's like there's so much of it that is weird and silly, and I don't know. It's a weird. It's awful that it's a problem, but Catacombs and Creators. I feel like that's the takeaway. Walk that dog.
Takeaway from today's chat.
Yeah, and Nibblemancy, but
yeah, of course, Nibblemancy and Dirk of Many Stings.
Dirk of Many Stings. And patreon.com/Zero Level Media.
Yeah, and you see, Nightbot just mentioned Steve Conley's Patreon as well.
Going to get the Mazes and Muses bump.
Yeah, I'll get on it, Wever Wolf. No, these videos get watched afterwards on YouTube and Twitch. I've seen numbers. But yeah, I'm still trying. We're going to have more guests on this year as well, and we're going to, being D&D's 50th anniversary, we're going to talk a lot of D&D. I think it's awesome. You've got 14 subclasses you're releasing, so three.
I've got this one. I've got a absolutely a druid one, and the one after that. So next one will be a druid, and so next one's wizard for a Nibblemancy. The next one will be a druid, and then after that will be TBD,
to be determined. All right. Anything else you need to plug before we get going?
Yeah. No.
Steve, as always, it's wonderful to chat with you in the morning.
Well, enjoy the 3 days. I hope you don't get. Hope you keep power. Hope you don't lose power.
That should be fine. We had some rough winds last night and the night before, but we're only going to get 1 or 2 inches of snow at the most, but that's enough to shut everything down.
Well, maybe you get to make a snowman.
Well, I'm just looking forward to seeing Jolene, my dog, experience snow for the first time.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that'll be fun. All right, Steve. Thank you as always, and everybody who's watching this live, thank you for showing up and keeping us company. Again, I'm Dan Taylor. That's Steve Conley, and we wish that all of you make all of your saving throws. Thanks. Bye.